What's up, y'all? It's Truth Tiger, and today I'm going to talk about the fantasy world that the narcissist gaslights you into believing that you are living in. So essentially, the narcissist will hyper idealize things, and a lot of this is part of what happens during the love bombing phase. They really make things so positive and so idealistic, and there's so much fake niceness and fake smiles and things looking so good on the outside. But, pretty soon, once the love bombing phase goes away, you're eventually going to realize how nasty and how evil things really are on the inside. But, like, what they do, it's like they get you entranced. It's like they get you believing in this idealistic fake life delusion, and I would say they entrance you, but they themselves are entranced essentially to their own ego and their own delusions of grandeur and stuff like that. And then they kind of almost pull you into that same trance. And instead of idealizing that yourself like the narcissist does, they idealize themselves. You're now in a situation where you're idealizing the narcissist and you're idealizing the life that you have with them. And I'll see this, man. I'll see this with so many people in their marriages and stuff like that, where, you'll see a woman, oh, devoted wife. I love my husband and my children. We have such a good, amazing life. And I could just see this darkness on her eyes. And I've literally seen comments like this, and I've clicked and checked out their page or their social media or whatever, and I see they have the whole happy life with my husband, happy life with my wife, whatever it is, and it's just like, man, like I see these people are actually so unhappy. They are brutally unhappy, but they are going around propagating this this idea that they have this great life. And there's other reasons besides being brainwashed or being in a fantasy world. The first reason is just shame. You're ashamed to talk about your life and how bad things are. Most people are apathetic and will not show empathy. Most people, if you talk about a bad situation or something like that, they will actually throw shame on you and will make your life worse and your situation worse, because it's just how people act in the matrix and in society and stuff like that. I'll get into that more in a separate video, but yeah, it's like you're ashamed. You don't want to talk because I've tried to talk to people about my problem situations, and oh, that sounds like a mistake you made. How did you end up in that situation? You shouldn't have trusted them. That's your fault. That's what they say. So, people don't want to get caught up in that or have to deal with that or anything like that. So, the shame is part of the reason. It is. And then there's fear too. You're afraid to leave. You're afraid you might lose your family. Fear is definitely a big part of it. It's a big factor in it as well. But I really feel like people buy into this fantasy. They buy into the delusion. They really, in their own minds, they are kind of like the narcissist. They're believing in things that just aren't true. They're falling into a delusion, and it's like they spew the propaganda of the narcissist, and they're, so happy with my wife and my family. Being a good father and husband is the only thing that matters to me, So happy with my husband. We have such an amazing life. I am so loyal and devoted to him, or my family's great. I love my dad, my mom, gotta be there for family. I love her, and they say this and there's no emotion on their face, and they have this blackness over their eyes. And, I see these people everywhere, I see them everywhere, and I can tell they're either victims to this, or in some cases they're enablers to it as well, sometimes both, but I'll see this everywhere, and they're buying into the fantasy and the delusion that they were first sold through the love bombing and through the BS, and it's like they're trying to force themselves to believe it's true, or they just don't want to accept the hard reality that, you know, the people closest to them are actually evil and are their enemies and are stabbing them in the back and messing with them, you know? So people need to get out of the fantasy world that the narcissist projects onto them and gaslights onto them. And the narcissist will do so much stuff. Like, I remember in my life, my dad would be, I'm such a great dad. I'm so much better than the other dad. Such a nice dad. I don't really punish you that much. I'm such a good dad. So they'll do this where they'll just like propagate. And like, if you believe, when you hear a lie enough, you get influenced by it. And you start to, you know, believe that lie. You do, you know, and especially when you're a little kid. So it's just like you're always hearing this stuff, and then, oh, I'm such a great husband, aren't I? Such a great man. Aren't you so happy in this marriage, you know? Or aren't I such a great wife? I'm so amazing. You know, my mom would say this too. I'm such a good mom. I cook better food than those other moms, and like, you're just hearing this constant propaganda like you're in North Korea, you know, like you go there and it's like, oh, we have so much food in the supermarkets and America is so terrible, you know, and we're so great, you know, and you just keep hearing this stuff constantly, and it has an effect, and eventually you kind of start to believe in it. You go, oh, yeah, my family is great, my marriage is great, you know, and you see these people, they walk around robotically with a very dark look on their eyes, you know. I'll see some guys who are with these Jezebels, and they're just like, and I'll see some women who are with some horrible, you know, satanic narcissist guy, whatever, and they're just like, they have this darkness on their eyes. They're just like, their head's just kind of down. They're just like, you know, and I feel bad for them. You know, I saw a woman who was pregnant the other day, and she had that same awful look in her eyes, and I could see that she was under a lot of oppression, you know. I don't know where it was coming from exactly, but I could see she was being oppressed by this narcissistic BS, you know, and it's like, there really is a big delusion and a big lie. Like, when you think about cults, a cult is just, you know, a narcissistic situation that's really gotten out of control. And, you know, the cult leader always has this big, great, grand thing, and we're going to become our best versions of ourselves, and we're going to become spiritually powerful and get in touch with God and become rich, and, you know, we're going to be so happy and all this stuff. And, you know, that idealistic, unrealistic kind of stuff that narcissists project, and it might not be as extreme as the cult leaders say, but, you know, it is the same kind of thing where they're going to talk about how these big grand goals, and we're going to finally get the big house, honey, and we're going to have the big house and the big truck, and we're going to be so happy, you know, we're going to finally take that amazing trip, and we're going to be so happy, you know. And there's just always this like fantasy world they're trying to get you in. And it's like, you got these virtual reality things. You got the Apple Vision Pro, whatever that thing, and the Oculus Quest and stuff, and it's like you put that on and you're in this whole different world, but what's happening around you is still happening around you, you know. And I really feel like the people who are the victims of these narcissists, it's like they plug into the virtual reality and they're in this different world where they're, oh, I have a nice family, but then it's like, no, the husband's yelling at you, the wife's yelling at you, the parents are yelling at you, your narcissistic friends are stabbing you in the back and treating you weird. But, you know, it's like you put on the virtual reality because you don't want to, you know, maybe accept the real reality that's going on around you. And I think that's a big part of it. Just, you can't accept the actual situation. So you're just like, well, I'll plug into this fantasy where I'm happy and everything's good and everything is nice. And, you know, the narcissist perpetuates this fantasy, and they grow this fantasy, and they gaslight you into believing this fantasy. And I've had so many narcissists, you know, we're gonna run a business together, we're gonna have this great life together. They're really like doing all this stuff to like talk about how we're gonna have such an amazing future, or, you know, you're the only guy who gets me, and you're you know, they're just like all this kind of like really hyper idealistic fantasy kind of things to try to really get you to put the abuse aside and put the manipulation and gaslighting and put just all the criticism and arguments and just all the abusive crap aside, and to say, oh yeah, there's this carrot, there's this fantasy I'm working for, there's this fantasy we'll finally achieve together, and it's not going to happen. It's not there. It's not possible. And it's coming from someone who is insanely deluded, and they want you to step into their delusions and step into their own deluded world. And I'll make another video on that, but their own world of delusions. And a lot of it just comes down to them needing to be right, and them believing they were right in some argument they were wrong in, or something like that. It's usually not some big overarching vision, but sometimes it is. But they do get you to step into that, fantasy with them, or step into their weird little world with them. And the more you're in that, the more it's like you're in the fantasy world, and you're not really accepting the cruel and the evil reality that's actually going on in this relationship, and it's easy to unplug and to disassociate, and it's easy to plug into that fantasy they give you, because their reality is very painful. The reality sucks, but that fantasy just looks so nice, but don't do it, don't plug into it. Live in the reality, I know as a kid, I plugged into that fantasy a lot that my parents gave me and stuff like that we were this big happy family and everything was so great. But deep down, a part of me knew that was a big lie, and that these people were just lying and manipulating, and the fantasy is built on lies and manipulation too of the narcissist. And they'll keep on, adding more lies and more manipulation to perpetuate that fantasy and to keep you trapped in that fantasy. And again, I see a lot of people, and it's like they will spout this stuff like it's North Korean propaganda, and it's like, I love my husband. He is a very good man, a good provider for the family. I am so happy, or a happy wife, happy life. I try to really keep my wife happy, and it fulfills me. And now visiting my family, I'm very grateful for the parents that I have. And you can just see it, they're dead inside. They are just dead and filled with dread, and it's just like, I feel sorry for them, and I could have ended up like that, but God helped me, and I got out. But most people are just on some level trapped in that, and the narcissists themselves are trapped in that too, with their own parents and their own life and their own families. And seeing it with the narcissist is especially weird, because they'll be all like, oh, I'm so happy to visit you. Oh, I visited my mom and we had this really great time and it was awesome and all this stuff. Oh, she's calling me. Oh, great. I'm so happy to talk to her. I just have to take this right quick. I just got to take this call from my mom. Gonna talk to her. So happy to talk to you. The narcissist will you'll see it in them, and it's more like, you could just see how angry and weird they are, but they're hacked, or they got their boss at work they suck up to or something. Oh, hi, Mr. So-and-so. So happy to see you. So great, so great. Oh, I love him, Oh, I love her. She's so great, isn't she? She's awesome. Great. Love her so much, and it's like, whoa, okay, you got some stuff going on here. You're saying one thing, but you're very clearly feeling another thing, and you'll see the narcs do that too. And it's especially strange, it's like, it's like they're enslaved to a master they hate. And I don't know how to describe it really. That's kind of a different video from the perspective of the narcissist themselves. But, you'll see this kind of fantasy world thinking to not have to, face reality. And it's, I'll get back to the narcissists actually for a little bit. Why not? But I've known so many narcissists that are so they believe so many weird, fantastical things. I've met some of them, they're so into the new age money manifestation, or they're into some I don't know, Kenneth Copeland's. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a really weird predatory pastor guy. They're really into his thing, or like they have some sort of delusion they are very, very into. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's like the narcissists are like the most gullible people, you know, or this fantasy world thinking they're very, very into, you know, this fantasy delusion, and they get you as the victim of them into this fantasy delusion, so you'll be trapped and stuck with them, and you won't sort of see the reality of them and the reality of life and be like, I do not want any part of this, you know, any part of this. And it's like when they know you're about to leave, or they know you're about to get mad, or they know you've had enough, all of a sudden they'll do some grand gesture, you know, it's your birthday and this time I remembered and I got you all these presents and I did all this stuff, and it's like, I better love bomb really, really hard so they don't leave, you know, and I've seen that, like, better turn up the love bombing to 1,000,000 so I don't lose this person, you know. And it's just, unless they discard, you know, and if they discard, it's just like, oh, they're a person, oh, they don't exist, you know. If they discard, it's the opposite. It's just like you don't even exist, you know. And separate video, but like with narcs, it's like they're either so obsessed with you, you're like a drug to them, or they're just like, you don't even matter. You're just like, or it's like you just throw them in the trash. We don't even need them, you know. And it's separate video, but that's kind of more the love bombing, discard kind of cycle. But you know, they're desperate to. The narcs are desperate to live in a fantasy world, and they are desperate to gaslight you and to bring you into their ridiculous, weird fantasy world, you know? So, yeah, I think that's it for this video. God bless, and thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.